Good evening, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another edition of the Beauty in Us Radio, right here on Awesome Guide Radio. I'm your host, Nelson E. Brown, and I'm happy that you guys had an opportunity, another chance this week to join me. I have two guests, well, actually three, this evening. So I have a very special guest for the second half of the show, but for the first half of the show, I have Mr. Larry Davis and Mr. Justan Randolph here with me to talk about the work that they do in the field of environmental science. Now, I think that the field of environmental science is what we overlook. We often overlook the work that's done in the field of environmental science. So there are a lot of people who work in the world of engineering. So you have environmental engineers, you have civil engineers, you have mechanical engineers, but we haven't really talked about any students, any young people who've actually started a business in the field of environmental science. So these two gentlemen, I've had an opportunity to work with closely, and they have really impressed me. Mr. Larry Davis is here, and Mr. Justan Randolph is here. I remember Mr. Larry Davis from our days at Western Tech in high school several years ago, many eons ago, and I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Justan about his work that he does. So, without further ado, I wanted, for the first 30 minutes of the show, I wanted to give both of them a chance to talk about the work that they do with their business and in the field of environmental science. I've had an opportunity to chat with both of them, and they both are very, very smart and gifted, and they've been able to use their knowledge in this field in order to create a business and in order to make a difference in their community. So welcome you guys to the show. I just want to welcome you guys to the show so you guys can take it away from here.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Nelson. It's a pleasure to be here, man. Pleasure.
Yeah, same. Thanks for having us.
Yes, so absolutely. So before we begin, could you guys briefly share with the audience a little bit about yourselves? Anybody can start.
Sure. Well, you want to go, Stan?
All right, it's up to you. I'll let you lead the way, Larry. You got it, man.
Sure. Well, for myself, grew up in Baltimore County area, and I guess as it relates to environmental science, I guess it kind of started with with pets. Didn't grow up, couldn't have pets, no dogs, no cats. We had to make sure to keep the furniture clean around the house. And but my parents were cool with us having fish, so we wound up setting up this big fish tank with these what are called African cichlids. These fish from Lake Malawi over in Southeast Africa. Fell in love with it, just being able to have a living system downstairs in the basement, and being able to kind of get that exposure at an early age was really cool and kind of kickstarted me into the environmental space.
Nice. And mine, I think my story started out. I grew up riding horses, so just being out on the farm, like working with the kids, working with the community. I saw how the environment brought brought the people together, brought the community together. Kids were excited to learn, and then sticking with that, I went to school for mechanical engineering initially, and then transferred over into environmental science and technology. Once I figured out I didn't want to do mechanical every day, I still wanted to be in the environment, but I still wanted to impact our community and impact our people in a positive way. So ecological engineering became the route that I chose in school, and it's been exciting ever since, and it allows us to use the creativity, still be in the field with our boots dirty, but still allow us to use the technology, because as we know, technology is not going anywhere anytime soon. So um, it allows us to be creative in that aspect, and that that's grounds for innovation and youth engagement. So it's been a dream. It's been a dream. It's been a journey, to say the least. But it's been enjoyable, and it's definitely gonna be fruitful in the near future. So we're excited about it for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I know that you guys are the founders and the owners of Green Mechanics Benefit LLC. So that is that's an environmental, well, that's a business that's based in like what you guys have just talked about. So you guys answered a couple of my questions already, but what kind of work do you guys do with Green Benefit Mechanics LLC? Because I work in the field of healthcare administration, and I've been working with MedStar for almost a month now, and I've had a chance to, graduate from UMBC, get my undergraduate degree in this field. I've been studying the field of sociology, but my focus right now is geriatrics, but I've also been able to explore the world of environmental science as well. Prior to this, when I worked for the Department of the Environment for the state of Maryland. So, could you tell everybody? Could either one of you talk to everyone and tell them how you managed to create this business that's based in environmental science? That, again, of course, it's still your franchise, but again, your overarching goal was to make a difference in the community. So could you guys tell us a little bit about what the impact that this business has had for you guys and for the community since you guys started? It's been about 3 years. If I'm not mistaken, you guys have had this business for 3 years. So could you tell us a little bit about how it's impacted you personally and professionally?
Let's see. So is everybody able to hear my mic? Okay. So it's interesting. So with Green Mechanics, Justin and I, we were exposed to all of these different green technologies, these ecological technologies. And yet outside of the space that we were in, if you go to talk to somebody about this content, this information, they're like, dude, what the heck is this? And with that, when we started Green Mechanics, we wanted to be able to bring these technologies to the table for people, because it not only benefits the individual, the community, but also the surrounding environment. Now, the challenge with that is that folks kind of understand that sustainability, green technologies is the way to go, but the how and the why, it's a little bit more challenging to make that connection. So we just kind of wanted to meet people where they were at, and common challenges and pain points that we all struggle with, whether and starting with finances. Everybody is either trying to save money or make money, right? And so with these different green technologies, ecological technologies, we want to be able to meet people where they're at, to either provide savings and or generate revenue for individuals, entities, property owners on these different types of green technologies. And so some of the personal and community impacts that we've had over the last 3+ years now is, really identifying and meeting people where they're at and creating savings and revenue generating solutions for them, whether it be for Justin and I, we just got off this cool call about dealing with solar energy, or helping folks save money in their water utility. There was a project that we did working with a church in DC where we were able to save them, I believe it was over $20,000 worth of water bill expenses over a decade, just by implementing green space technology that we see in the landscape all the time, but we didn't know that actually had a role outside of like plants and soil and stuff like that. So on a personal level, it's been enriching to provide a solution to people. And on a community aspect, it's being able to create that education, the positive impact for the environment and people's pockets, and creating these testimonies and stories showing that, hey, when you do good for the environment, it can reciprocate in a powerful way. And that creates excitement for other people to want to get involved. So that's been cool.
Okay, what
Absolutely.
about you, Mr. Justin? How has it impacted you personally and professionally?
Yeah, I can echo almost the same sentiments, man. It's just good to see how the small things that like we see all the time that we might not know about or what have you, if we when we apply them the right way, it really does have an impact on our people. And it's 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 cool to see. I'm thinking about the like the landowners that we're excited to work with. It's with the Black Farmers Co-op. Um, and they're excited about like getting these the nutrient this technology that we're working with called algal turf scrubber, the ATS system, that we're working with them on as far as their water quality and nutrient removal, and using that to lower their water bills and some of their that'll relieve some of their fees that they have on their land ownership side of things. And then that'll help with the water quality aspect on their land, and that helps with some of their livestock, some of their livestock things. Some of their crops are better taken care of, and then those we look at the potential. As far this is kind of like the personal side, like where the personal and professional side kind of blend, because we get these we get these results, and then we think about again the innovation on how we can circulate things back into the economy, and circulate things back into the ecosystem. And then we turn to things like innovative ways to reuse the algae, and how we can incorporate youth in that aspect, and learning things like that, and working with like places like Bladensburg Waterfront Park, and engaging with people there at their sustainability day they had not too long ago, and seeing just how people are willing to engage with things like living bulkheads, and ATS systems, and different water ventures and other things like it's people just get excited about things that are useful, and are novel and innovative, that some government people just aren't talking about. So it's just exciting to bring useful things to people, um, that are making a difference. So yeah.
Yes, so thank you both for sharing that. I was asking because I think what's unique about both of you guys is that you guys have managed to co-own a business at a very young age, and a lot of young people want to be entrepreneurs. They want to venture into the field of entrepreneurship. So could you tell people a little bit about what it's like being an entrepreneur and what it looks like to work in this field of business, and what it's been like for you guys since the pandemic? Because when you guys started this business, this was like almost right before the pandemic. So could you guys tell us a little bit about like how you guys have managed to stay afloat, how you guys have managed to stay successful throughout all of the challenges that have been brought on by the pandemic? Because I know that, again, it's been a very stressful time for a lot of entrepreneurs. I know that a lot of businesses have closed because a lot of people lost a lot of the resources that they needed in order to stay afloat. So could you tell us a little bit about how you guys have managed to, stay afloat and be successful?
Has it been easy? Uh, One of the things that has been very helpful is having strategic partners, having relationships of other individuals that are in this industry in the environmental space. Especially with the pandemic, we really had to pull together and really figure out, okay, this person does this person is good at this. How can we bridge these worlds together and really maximize? I know for myself, one of the other, I guess, personal experiences I had growing up, in addition to environmental science, was personal training. So I had a chance to really connect and really build relationships with, or just learn how to build relationships, and being able to provide solutions to people. And so those skills translate into running a business, an environmental company, where you identify and build relationships with individuals that work in government that may may be interested in doing business with you, but there's got to be an interest in wanting in having that relationship and cultivating that. And so that's basically what has propelled Green Mechanics through the pandemic. I do not know how we would have made it through any other way, especially starting right before the pandemic. Most businesses, when you first get started, getting access to collateral it can be a challenge for loans, lines of credits, different things like that. Unless you've already had existing business credit from other entities that you might have, established. But if you're just getting off the ground, that it's not fun. It's definitely not fun. So, but building those relationships and those individuals creating opportunities within governments, farmers, as Justan mentioned, commercial property owners, that's what kept us through. And we still treasure those relationships now, and they're slowly but surely maturing into more opportunities to expand now that we're starting to get past a portion of this pandemic, for sure.
Absolutely. I'm not even going to belabor the point. And just being able to pivot as a creative, as an innovator, as a thinker, being able to pivot and like strategize. And what you found out is that like when you looked at what we had is everything that we needed. You know what I'm saying? And when we looked to those strategic partners, like they were in the same boat, in the same position. So it was a matter of just all of us recognizing that we had the opportunity to work together in the position that we was in society, and we decided to work together, and then all boats rose. So it was definitely a team effort, but definitely one of those things where we saw the strength of the community and the value of working together. So we definitely want to continue to do that throughout everything that we do.
Yes, and I appreciate you guys for saying that. Another question that I had, as it pertains to you guys being entrepreneurs, who are some of your mentors? Because I know that you mentioned that building those connections and building your network is very important when you are in the field of entrepreneurship. Unfortunately, a lot of people give themselves a false sense of security when they think that they can do everything by themselves and that they don't need anybody else's help in order to accomplish that. But the reality is that, of course, none of us know everything. We always need someone in our corner who has been where we've been and who's jumped through a lot of the hurdles that we're probably jumping through now. So how important is it to have a mentor when you're in the field of entrepreneurship, especially when you're in your field? Trying to find someone who knows the type of work that you all do, and who understands, what kind of connections you need to make, and who has the resources that you need in order to stay afloat. So how important is it to have mentors in the field of entrepreneurship, and even with the work that you all are doing? Because again, I know you guys mentioned that you guys were able to use your connections, and you were able to work diligently with a lot of the stakeholders and a lot of your colleagues throughout the course of the pandemic. So how important is that to have mentors and to be under someone else's leadership? Even though you guys are co-owners of a business, you guys still need mentors. We all need mentors. So what has that been like for both of you?
Very significant. I am a huge advocate. I'm sure Justin will probably say the same. We're huge advocates of mentorship. We, by no shape or form or fashion, claim to be the experts, but we know of experts and folks that have, longevity in this space. One of the interesting things about this environmental space, depending on, there's energy, there's water, there's community engagement, there's all these different parts that fit together. And oddly enough, these communities are actually pretty small when you actually think about it. Like when I say pretty small, like, there's only a handful of consultants. There's only a handful of construction workers. There's only a handful of engineers, planners, that type of thing. So everybody knows everyone. You're not hiding when you're trying to do these types of projects. And so when you have mentors in the industry and have an established track record for doing great work, they're able to condense the time and for opportunities and projects that to work on. I mean, that certainly has been the case for Justin and I, that without our mentors, I do not want to imagine what we would have gone through without them. So I think they're key. I think mentors help to shorten the timeline of things to get you to where you're trying to go, especially in the environmental space. And when it's with us dealing with consultancy, there's a lot of different hats you have to wear. You have to be able to manage, you have to be able to deal with clients, you have to be able to provide solutions. You have to be able to wear a lot of different hats. And sometimes it's tricky trying to figure out where are the best hats to wear at that particular time. And if you're just a newbie, you think it might be good to wear the blue hat, but no, sir, it's time to wear peach, and that type of thing. And so mentors really help to discern that, and really create those opportunities and minimize hiccups along the way and create opportunities. So we're grateful to our mentors and all of the work that they've done to make Green Mechanics what it is.
Absolutely, I can expand on that too. I mean, mentorship, like Larry said, man, it's been everything to us, and it's been everything to us, honestly, and it just helps us think more creatively as well. Like as everything said, like Larry said, they save us so much time and mistakes and guidance and just learning, but the the level of vision that they have, like with their level of wisdom and seeing things how we see it, and then when we come together, it's like, okay, I was thinking about these demographics, okay, but they're thinking about these other demographics too, and coming from these angles, so you get a real good holistic solution when you listen to your mentors, and your mentors are listening to you as well. Like that's that iron sharpens iron aspect of it. That comes along with good mentors. A lot of mentors will just try to tell you what to do, try to like guide you along in their direction. But like the mentors that we have are listening to us as well, and that helps us. That helps us further our thinking process and how we're thinking through our own things, so that when we come to them with certain things, it's already at a certain level where they can go at it, and trust that we've thought through it, and then we can come at it at that next level that they're expecting, and then it just rocks and rolls from there. So mentorship is absolutely a thing that we want to continue to push.
Yes, absolutely. Where do you guys see Green Mechanics in about 5 to 10 years from now? Because I know that every business starts small and it grows through time. In due time, businesses grow with the proper amount of time and resources that are allocated appropriately and accordingly. I think that, yes, every business can be successful when they have the tools and resources in order to do so. So where do you all see Green Mechanics, 5 to 10 years from now? And what are you guys doing in order to make that happen? Because, we are all learners. Us furthering our knowledge in the field that we work in, it never stops. There's always something new to learn, and there are always going to be new people to meet. So where do you guys see yourselves 5 to 10 years from now with Green Mechanics? And how are you guys furthering your education as it pertains to your knowledge of this field?
Great question. Assuming we don't go through more pandemics, I would say that we're very interested in obviously building up a sturdy base here within the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia area. Obviously, for good reason, you have Washington, DC, you have the Chesapeake Bay that's right here in the heart of the country. There's a lot of opportunities and a lot of emerging environmental markets that are very lucrative. whether from a business standpoint or just from a residential. We want to help service communities, especially for historically underserved communities, more of your Black and brown communities, right? Having create exposure to different communities on how they can find savings or earn money by incorporating green technologies on their property. Doesn't matter if you own a house, or maybe you're a business owner with some property, or maybe you're a farmer out there that's looking to better their practice and save money. We want to work with you, and getting into government and stuff like that. So we definitely want to build a nice, tight-knit community here in the DMV area, but we're also looking to want to expand along the East Coast. So going up as high as New York, going down as far as Florida. And the reason why is because as we're seeing environmental changes going on in the world, dealing with climate change, we understand that there are certain parts in certain communities along the eastern shore or eastern coast of the country that are going to be impacted by these changes. You'll also find that a lot of your Black and brown communities are along the eastern portions of the country, southeast region of the country. So we want to create more green jobs and other green entrepreneurs that are in those historically underserved communities. Since those are the communities that are going to be most impacted by these changes, we need more leadership. We need more leaders in these communities. And we want to equip them and create that exposure to all the different things that we bring to the table. So that is the vision for now, unless again, unless life sneaks in some more pandemics, then we'll just shake our heads and eat tomatoes, I guess. I don't know.
We'll roll with it. We'll roll with it, man. I think 5 to 10 years from now, like Larry said, man, we just want to be your green mechanic, man. For anybody that's residential, commercial, farmland, we want to be the people who can point you in that right direction with your land, as far as having it work for you, taking care of it better, managing it better, business plans with it, whatever the case may be, whatever the need may be. We want to make sure that you're taken care of on the environmental side, so that it's sound, and it's impacting and sustaining you, your family, your community, whatever it may be. So we definitely want to be that green mechanic for you, so to speak. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And my last question. Okay, how can people reach out to you guys if they need more resources and if they need more support? Because, like, I'm starting, my master's program at UMBC this fall, and I'm trying to again work with the graduate students, and some of them are focusing on environmental policy. I'm focusing on health administration and policy, but I do have classmates who are focusing on environmental policies, and I can use you guys as a reference. So how can people reach out to you guys if they want more information, or if they want to connect with you guys directly to ask any questions they need to ask about starting a business in this field or just even studying this field more? So how can they reach out to you guys?
Sure. They can go to our website, which is Green Mechanics. That's GreenMechanics.co. There's no M. So if you put .com, you're not going to find us. You can go to the website and you can leave your contact information, and we'll reach out to you. You can also reach out to our company email. You can reach out to either myself, Justin, and I, but an email you can start with is ldavis@greenmechanics.co. And you can contact us on a plethora of options, whether you're interested in green technologies that might be a benefit to your property or your operations or whatever it is that you're doing, or for opportunities for research. We're very big into data research collaborations with academic institutions. We're very big on that, or opportunities for internships and potential job opportunities as well, dealing with green jobs. We're really looking forward to expand in the DC and Baltimore marketplace. So if you're in those bounds, in those areas, we want to hear from you and develop a foolproof plan to do some great work together and be agents of change.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Any last words before I make this transition to the next part of our show?
Well, we just want to say thank you for all
Yeah,
the great
thank
work that you're doing, Nelson. It's great to see how we're all growing in our own roots since high school, and thank you for allowing us to talk about what's near and dear to us. So, thanks.
Yes, I will definitely touch base with you guys, after the show and see what's up. So thanks again for appearing on my show and for sharing that. I think you guys are probably the first ones who work in this field who've actually shared what you've shared on my show. So I do think it was very informative. It was enlightening. So thanks again.
thank you, man.
So much. Take care.
You too.
Peace.
Okay, so as we make this transition to the next part of our broadcast, she's been waiting for the past few minutes, but I'm going to introduce Maryland State Delegate Miss Regina Boyce to the show. I had a chance to see her at Delegate Stephanie Smith's event last month at her birthday celebration and reelection campaign, but I didn't get a chance to speak to her. There were so many people, I didn't get a chance to speak to everybody. But I'm glad that I have had the opportunity to connect with her recently, and I'm glad, Ms. Boyce, that you've had a chance to appear on my show and be a part of my broadcast. I'm not sure if you were able to tell since you hopped in for the last few minutes, but we're talking a lot about the field of environmental science, and I was able to read from your bio that you are you're a member of several boards, that pertain to this field. So you're on the Commission on Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities, and you're also a member of the Environment and Transportation Committee in the Maryland House of Delegates, and you've been serving since 2019. So if you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today? I hope that you were able to get to see where we were kind of going with the conversation
I
for the
didn't.
last.
I came on the last 2 minutes. I've been working nonstop. This is also
Okay.
re-election time, so I didn't hear all of it. So unfortunately, I do apologize. I mentioned that to my aide to relay that I'm literally was coming on at 6:30 because I was leaving from somewhere else. So I do apologize. So I'm Regina T Boyce, a delegate of the 43rd district in pretty much north central Baltimore City, representing that area at the state level of government. I was elected in 2019, 2018. I'm serving from 2019 to date. First time ever running for office, and it's been quite amazing. It's been a very interesting 4 years, not only of historic legislation, but of course, due to the pandemic. The way I got here certainly wasn't planned. I moved to Baltimore City in 2004, got involved in my community, and from there, community work turned into Main Street work, turned into participating in many projects and organizing within the city and within my own neighborhood. And then I worked for the city for 5 years, so I had a good idea about how city government worked. Got my master's in public administration, and then worked for a nonprofit for about four and a half years. And unfortunately, for most women, we're often asked. We don't kind of come up for ourselves and say, "Hey, I should think about running for office." We are often asked to consider it, and I was asked. I considered. I checked in with mentors and decided to run. I'm not thinking that I would win, but I won. So that's how I got here. And now this is in 2022. Looking at re-election in another 4 years.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks again for that introduction. So could you tell us a little bit about how being a member of the Maryland General Assembly, how it's impacted you personally and professionally? I know that I've met some of your colleagues in some of the districts that you all represent. I've attended several events, and I've learned a lot about each and every one of you, and you all are very unique. You all have a lot to bring. You all are very creative, and you all are gifted in so many ways. So could you tell us a little bit about what the journey has been like for you personally and professionally, and how how you've been able to make such an impact within the time frame that you've been in office. Because
Thank
I know
you.
that it takes a lot of courage to step out and say, I'm running for office. I want to represent the people I care about. I want to make a difference that needs to be made. So could you tell us a little bit about how that's impacted you personally and professionally in the last few years?
Yeah, I always tell people it's like every other job. There's a culture. Your relationships matter. How you get along with your colleagues, your quote unquote co-workers matters. And the more you know your colleagues and your co-workers, the better decisions you can make, the more you can be just as considerate of their thoughts and feelings and opinions as I am, as I represent my own community in my own city. And so I always say it's like every other job. You get in, you've met the qualifications, you got the interview, you're in. So then it's learning the culture. What is the culture? What are the policies? What are the procedures as it relates to getting anything done, right? You don't have relationships if nobody likes you. If you're annoying, nobody wants to work with you. And so it's important that we got along with people, that we understand where people are coming from. We're state delegates. So, what we do not only impacts our city, but it impacts sometimes the rest of the state, and having to know those colleagues that represent those parts of the states, as well as understanding their needs is very important. And so I always tell people I'm an adjunct at the University of Baltimore teaching the legislative process. And what I always tell my students is that your relationships matter. How you know people, how you treat people, the more people you know, the more hands you have to be able to do this work. And so your relationships matter, even the people who is the person at work who drives you a little crazy. You have to work with them because there's a greater good. And so I always tell people, the only difference is that we're a self-governing body and the spotlight is on us all the time. But we have rules and regulations that we have to follow. And following them keeps us in line. But most importantly, again, if I don't know and respect my colleagues, I don't respect my constituents, and I definitely don't respect the work. So.
Yes, absolutely. And I like what you said. I think that's been the theme this entire show for the entire evening. Your connections matter, your network matters, who matters. Again, using your resources in order to make that difference matters. I was going to ask you, I know that you were in office when you got elected in 2018, and you've been serving since 2019. So how have things been for you since the beginning of the pandemic? And I'm sure you've heard this thousands of times, but how have you been able to demonstrate that flexibility for your constituents and for your colleagues?
It's been pretty awesome. So first of all, in 2020, the first year, 2019, we were sworn in, and I was just like, I'll just take my time. I want to get to know my colleagues, want to get to know the subject matter of my committee. I want to just absorb this before I decide I want to throw in 100 bills. And then 2020 came along and I was ready. I had like 13 bills. I was ready to rock and roll. And then this thing called COVID happened, and it closed down the General Assembly, the first time since the Civil War, adjourning early. And so none of us really knew what to do, because it was second by second, minute by minute, like what to do. I came home, I called all of my constituents that I had, and friends and family that I had numbers for, just checking in on them. We had a lot of, that's of course, as we're doing now, this virtual world happened, and it gave folks access to be able to still meet and kind of stay safe at home. But we still had constituent concerns, and a lot of businesses closed. So we were helping people with unemployment insurance and ensuring that they were applying appropriately. And then, that was the year of the census. We had to perform the 2020 census. And how do we do that, especially as the numbers started coming down and summer advanced? And then we had a executive in office at the president's level who kept stopping and starting this nonpartisan census organization from us doing our job. So we were out in the streets counting people for the census, especially in areas that had been undercounted. We were, a lot of us took action along with our local jurisdictions in the state, as well as our churches and schools, to ensure folks were safe at home with meals, providing warm meals, providing, as you know, the USDA food boxes, whether it was canned goods or fresh fruits and vegetables, getting those out to those who needed it the most. So literally helping deliver those foods. But I think the biggest thing that was awesome was that when we closed out 2020 and we started 2021, we had to figure out as a General Assembly how we had to operate, because we still had to be in session legally and we had to be in Annapolis. But how do we also bring the process to the folks here? And so our floor sessions were in person, mass, but all of our committees were virtual. And that allowed so much more access to the process. Before, you would have to drive to Annapolis. All committees start at 1. You don't know what the list number of bills being heard. You pay a lot of money. You sit around for a long time, hours sometimes, just to testify on one bill for 2 minutes. And so what that allowed people to do was, log in. They can testify, they can leave out, they can watch. And so it opened up the process of government more. People watched more, people participated more. And so that was the best thing. And then getting our friends who weren't as computer savvy and IT savvy to use it, lending our Zoom accounts to more senior associations so that they could still have meetings online, and teaching that aspect of it. So it was a terrible thing, right? And on the other hand, it really forced connectivity and forced us to realize is that not everybody is connected. Not everybody knows how to be connected. And then we started talking about broadband and access to the internet, which a lot of people didn't have. Some people don't feel like they needed it, and some people couldn't get it. And so it was a good thing. It exposed a lot of our weaknesses, but forced us to have to correct them.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you shared a lot, but I'm glad you were able to accomplish so much, even with the pandemic being a huge distraction throughout the course of the time it started. You guys have still managed to work together, to come together and make that difference and pull through. So I'm really glad to, that you shared that. Like I said, I've met a lot of your colleagues, and all of the work that you guys do. A lot of people don't get to see this, behind the scenes. A lot of people don't know about this. So I'm glad you had a chance to share that. What are some of the things that you were able to accomplish going into 2021, even though, people were in position at the beginning of the year to get vaccinated,
Sure.
and people were in the position to do a little bit more? What were you able to accomplish?
So in 2021, last year, as a General Assembly, one of our big bills was Police Reform and Accountability Act of 2021. And that really set the tone, not only for the state, for our city in Baltimore, but it was starting to become an example across the country about how we police, where we police, who we police, and most importantly, how we keep also officers whole and safe and accountable, and also mentally ready and appropriately trained to do this job, to serve and protect. Independent investigations, assuring that we're not really taking in military surplus. We're not a military group. You're a local community serve and protect group. We talked about no-knock warrants, talking about making sure that what happened to Breonna Taylor doesn't happen to anyone else again, and transparency of records. Gentleman that was killed in the Eastern Shore was killed by an officer who had a very long, aggressive record in another state, and he got transferred here, and he ended up killing a young Black man. And so Anton's law, we have Anton's law, but those measures to ensure that, when we go from place to place, we know where not only the officer comes from, but we know what their record is. So we know whether or not we want to add this person to our police force. Body-worn cameras, ensuring that everybody across the state, not just parts of the state, are using body-worn cameras. And, essentially, especially for Baltimore City, bringing our department into the 21st century, considering we are also under a federal consent decree. So civilianizing positions that should have always been civilianized so that we have more officers on the streets and in our neighborhoods at ground levels. And so looking at, training and hiring, how are we recruiting? Who are we recruiting? So that was a big bill that session. One other big bill was the HBCU settlement in Maryland. As you know, the HBCU sued the state for known duplication of educational programs for white institutions, thereby removing the ability for these HBCUs to, if they had business, then it was somebody else who had a special business program as well. So kind of taking away some shine from them. And it was been done for years, 50 years. And so we settled a lawsuit. It was the calculation was about $1 billion, but we settled for $577 million to go to our 4 HBCUs across for the next 10 years to make up for those losses. And that could be done with scholarships. It could be done with programs. And so that was a big thing. But for me, I passed 2 bills. One was, I heard a little bit from the last conversation is what we call urban agriculture. And so repealing a tax, there's an urban ag tax in our city and in the state where you have a different property rate tax if you are using the land for urban agriculture. And that law created a clawback so that if, let's say, in 3 to 5 years, it doesn't work out, you're not using the land as intended, or it just doesn't work out. The ground's not good. You're not reaping what you thought you were going to reap. It said that you would have to pay back the taxes in arrears in full as if it were regular property tax. And I repealed that. So to say that if it doesn't work out, you lose the tax and you just moving forward have to pay property tax, because it became a hindrance in Baltimore City, where we have an agricultural culture and community like growing, but it was a hindrance to be like, okay, if this doesn't work, I have to pay back full taxes. I don't have money now. How am I going to pay back something in full if I don't have it? And so we repealed that. And then another thing that I passed was a bill that added bereavement as a leave, one of our leave requirements. So right now, if someone passes away in your family, you would take some bereavement, time, but usually it comes from your sick leave or it comes from your vacation. There isn't really a bereavement category. And so we created that category because bereavement is a big deal. People need to be able to appropriately grieve. And when they don't do so, it becomes a loss of individuals, a loss of time and money for people who are coming to work when they are not physically or emotionally ready to work. And so it allows people to, one, be able to take that time, but most importantly, come back when they're ready, not when we think they should come back. So 2021 was a pretty cool year.
Okay, yeah, you shared a lot. You've been sharing a lot, and I've been listening to all this fantastic stuff that you've done throughout the course of the pandemic, and I think it's really, really great. So could you tell us a little bit about the committees that you're a part of that are about sustainability, transportation, and environmental justice? Because that's what we kind of talked about in the first half of the show.
Sure. So I am on the Environment and Transportation Committee. It is a committee that I chose to be on. And I serve on the Environment and Motor Vehicle and Transportation Subcommittee. And so the Environment and Transportation Committee in general oversees agriculture, natural resources, of course, transportation and motor vehicles, environment, as well as local laws and land use. And we do housing as well. And so the Speaker of the House placed me on the Commission for Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities. And what this group does, it's been around since about the 60s, but been around for a couple of years now, a couple of decades. But their job is to kind of look at what is happening across the state and advocate to not only the Department of the Environment, but to the governor about what is happening and how we may need to respond or not respond, or how we're looking at, there's, if something is an environmental justice issue, is it something that will become an issue, or is this something that is already an issue, and kind of discovering that, and then discovering, like, what do we do, right? So in the Eastern Shore, there's chicken farms, and the smell of those farms, and as it relates to the people who live there. So on one hand, yes, a lot of people eat chicken. On the other hand, is how do we make it so that we're not causing more air pollution, and that it is not polluting our air, but most importantly, the people who are right there who have to, who are not getting the benefits of somebody clarifying and clearing the air of that. And so it's been a good place to be. Those communities who are also affected can come. I mean, it's an open meeting. It's the last Tuesday of every month, where you can hear kind of what's happening across the state. But as an organization, we're lifting up to MDE as well as the governor's office on how we move forward, how we're studying this, how do we know where the injustices are, so that we can advocate that nothing else happens here until we can correct what currently isn't going on, and how do we know enough to know that we're not causing anything else in the future. So anything from, we're talking about electrification and the grid. Well, we're going to need a grid, but is the grid going to be an issue, right? People want nuclear power. It is the cleanest energy, but it has a ton of waste that we don't know what to do with. So what do we do with the waste? And in storing it, how does that become an environmental justice issue about where we store it? So on and so forth. So it's been a really good commission to look at. At the local level, I'm on the city's sustainability commission, looking at how the city, with the planning department, advising the mayor about how do we become a more sustainable city, from water quality to agriculture to recycling and composting, and how do we reduce waste, plastic bags, straws, polystyrene, like how are we reducing our waste so that we're not incinerating, first of all, a lot of the stuff that we burn at the incinerator, but most importantly, how do we lower that together? So we're either not burning, certainly composting that which can be composted, and really buying less products that are not either consumable or recyclable. And so it's been a great working with that area as well.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. It definitely gave me a lot of more insight in terms of what you guys do on a day-to-day basis and what you guys have been able to accomplish. I study sociology at UMBC, and I'm preparing for my master's program. I've wrapped up my bachelor's program with my focus in the social determinants of health, and in other areas. And prior to working with MedStar Health, I worked for the Department of the Environment for the state of Maryland. So what kind of advice would you give to a lot of students like me who are pursuing a career in public office, or who are interested in doing what you're doing for the state of Maryland?
I would say, I always tell people, really, beyond social media accounts that you follow people on their Twitter, really read up on what the General Assembly actually does, and how does your skill set lend to the process based on what it is, what you want to do. Do you need to be in that position to do it? Can you be in the current position that you are to do it? I mean, it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of time. And, time is important. And, you have to figure out if what you want to do, this is the avenue that you have to go through. Then you go through it. There are many people who sometimes feel like the only way to affect change is to be a part of this process. As somebody who worked in community and worked for government and worked with community, the answer is it's not the only way. It's one of many ways. And so you have to figure out, based on your skill set, your personality matters. You have to be a people person. If you are, and if you're very, very introverted, it may work out for you, but you can't do this job if you're not talking to people. And that's not just your constituents and businesses and institutions. And your colleagues, but I mean, it is a people-oriented business. And if you're not into people, I would say you cannot do this work. And you clearly seem like you're a very good people person in general. But I'd also tell people to remember it's an ongoing job. It's, when doing this work, you always have to look at every angle. There's the angle you want to look at because maybe it's the angle you favor, but this work requires you to leave no stone unturned, to ask many questions. You're an investigator, you're a judge, you are, sometimes the decision maker. You have to be the person sometimes to go the extra mile just to ensure something is going to work in the way that it's going to work. So it's a lot of investigating. It's a lot of asking questions. It's a lot of reaching out to people beyond the folks that you may be comfortable talking to, especially when it comes to real issue-based, like legislation or concerns that make you have to go to the other side. Like, I need to know what the other side is doing and what they're thinking in order to get to how I move forward, and is it the best way to move forward given all the information I have, not just some of the information. So I would tell people to volunteer. If you're interested, volunteer with a campaign, intern for an elected official, whether it's the local, federal, or state level. Read up on what people do. I find more often than not, people have no idea. And I don't know if I want to fault the school system or not, that they have no real working knowledge of civics, how government even works. People don't know the difference between the judicial, the executive, and the legislative branches of government. And so it's important that, that you know that. And if you don't, it's easy enough. Intern, be open to learn something that you don't know.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that too. So how can people connect with you if they want more information about the work that you do, or if someone who may be listening may live in your district and they need resources or they need assistance for whatever matter that needs to be addressed? And how can people reach out to you if they want more information? And what's your plans for the rest of the year?
I can put it in I can put it in the chat. It's I have a state account. It is Regina at Regina T Boyce. Regina.Boyce at house.state.md.us. And then I'll leave my phone number as well at my office. I'm happy to chat with people, check in with people. People can contact me that way. We give out delegate scholarships, which is somewhat over right now. But you can check back in the fall to see if there's extra money. Hold on. I just sent it to you. Should I put it? Can I put it in the comments as well? Will it let me?
Yes, you can. You can put it in the comment section.
Okay.
Yeah, you can just copy and paste that.
Let's see if it'll let me. Oh, it's not letting me put it in the comments section.
Oh, let me see if I can.
I can see the comments. It doesn't let me put it in the comments.
Okay, well, let me see if I can do it on my end. Okay, it works. Okay, so here we go.
Oh, sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome. So again, thank you again for appearing on my broadcast and talking about the work that you do in the Maryland General Assembly. So do you have any last words in terms of what your plans are for the rest of the year? We're already halfway through the year. I know it's campaign season, so I guess that's what you're going to be focusing on.
Well, I would ask everyone to focus on that, especially in Maryland. This is election season. Early voting starts. Today is the last day to register to vote. Early voting starts July 7th through the 14th across the state, and primary election day is July 19th. And some of you may have gotten a ballot in the mail to vote by mail. Vote by mail. This is a critical election. We're voting for a new governor. We've had a two-term governor who has not been, some people say has been great to Baltimore. We have the comptroller race up. We have the AG's race up. and we have so many other local races up. So please look at your up and down your ballot. School boards are on, central committees are on, judges are on. Look over everything, read up on your candidates, and make a strong, smart choice, because these will be the people who will represent you and your interests, your concerns, your priorities.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to let you go, but thank you, Ms. Boyce, again for appearing on my show for the second half to talk about the work that you do. I will definitely touch base with you about everything, and I'll definitely be seeing you
Please
at
do, and I
hopefully at court.
appreciate you asking me to be on your show. I feel honored. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. You take care. I'll keep in touch.
I hope to see you soon.
Yes. Okay, so that wraps up another edition of the show. This is the Beauty in Us Radio right here on Awesome Guy Radio. We covered a lot this evening, but I want to let you all know that, again, this is election season, so it's very, very important for everyone to vote, especially because of all of the things that are happening in the world of politics and in the world of law, in the field of law. A lot of events have taken place within the past week and 2 weeks. We are about to enter into the month of July. Next week, we're about to celebrate the 4th of July, Independence Day. But again, this is a very critical election. A lot of things are taking place in the world that aren't favorable to everyone. So it's important to let your voice be heard. It's important for you to do your homework and go out and vote. I'm just going to leave it at that. But next week, we are going to be celebrating Independence Day. We're going to be talking about what Independence Day means, what the origins and history of that are. And we are going to have a chance to really, really dig deep and learn about some history. And I think it's very important for us to learn about our history, especially since some things have taken place that aren't exactly the most favorable or popular to many people who live in the USA. So make an appointment to meet me back here on Tuesday, July 5th, 2022, from 6 to 7 p.m. This is Nelson E. Brown with the Beauty in Us Radio right here on Awesome God Radio. I'm glad you all were able to tune in for another show this evening. We covered a lot. We had really, really, really a really great show. I was able to learn a lot. I hope you guys did too. I hope you guys felt informed, enlightened, and inspired by the stories that you've listened to. So again, make an appointment to meet me back here next week on Tuesday, July 5th from 2022 from 6 to 7 p.m. We're going to be talking about the Independence Day and what that means. We're going to really dig deep into our history. Follow us on social media on Instagram at Awesome Guy Radio, on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and all of the other social media platforms at Awesome Guy Radio. Feel free to follow me at Nelson E. Brown on Twitter and Instagram, and on Facebook and Twitch and all of the other social media sites, including LinkedIn, at Nelson Brown. I love you guys. And again, this is me signing off. I will see you guys next week.